What's up, WordPress nerds? In today's video, we're going to be going over how you can create a simple custom Elementor control. We're going to get a little bit deeper in further videos. I really want to take a look at Elementor controls and how you can really take control of them. But first, I just want to do a quick introduction about how we can get something on the page and just kind of give you an idea of some of the things that you would be working with before you dive deeper in creating crazier and crazier controls. Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to replicate the select to control, and we're going to show you how you can kind of manipulate it and kind of make it your own. And then in future videos, we'll kind of dive a little bit deeper into some of the more nuanced topics of Elementor controls. So what I have here is I have a simple WordPress site, and what I've got is the Elementor regular basic version of Elementor, the one that you can just find in the WordPress plugin repository, and we're working with version 3.0.16. And then we are using the Hello Elementor theme just to kind of keep things simple. Over here, I've actually, and I can just show you guys right here, is I've got a post, just Elementor number 6, just the one that it auto-populated with. And I have a, if you can see it up here at the top left, is a custom component that I created called single post. And then it just has a section here called post selection. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a custom control that's going to fit right inside of this area right here. That's going to allow the user to select from a list of posts that we want them to select from. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be spending most of our time creating that custom control. So just so you know, I've got that custom component right here all set up. And if you're interested in learning how to create custom components, I have a video which I will link to in the description that goes over how to get that done. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to be creating our very own control. We need to create the class for that. So let's just do a new file here, and we're going to do custom controls slash single or post select.php. And so now we have a folder here called custom controls and a file called post select.php. And thank you for the people who have reached out to me and reminded me how to create those files in Visual Studio Code, because that was real nice. So what we have to do is we have to create a new class, and it needs to extend off of the base control class that Elementor gives us. And we're going to have to give it a couple of required methods. And the first required method is one called getType. So public function get underscore type. And we need to return just the slug of the control that we're going to create, because this is what's going to be called upon anytime that we create a new control. We want to select this type. So I'm just going to call this WPC post select, just so it's kind of namespaced to us. And then what you also need is another function called content template. And this is what's going to appear under here when this particular control is called. So what we have is we're just going to have just a div. Let's exit out of PHP here and bring it back in. Oh boy. A div. And inside of this div, just to kind of wraps everything, is you need to create a label. And this, you don't have to, but this is kind of nice, and it kind of shows some of the interactions that you'll have with Elementor. And we're going to give it a class, and this is a specific Elementor class. It's going to be Elementor-control-title. Now, all it does is really style anything. It doesn't like use this to for any sort of functionality. But then we're going to have some kind of like handlebars stuff here, some template stuff, and it's going to be data.label. And this is going to come into play in a little bit. We don't know what this is yet, but we're going to just keep this in mind, because you'll see kind of where it comes from in a minute. And then on top of that, we are going to create a new select box. And we're going to use select to for this. but let's just kind of give it a space to live and a class that we can use. And it's going to be post-select. And that's it for there. We're also going to give it a width because otherwise it's just going to kind of be as small as possible, which we don't want. So we'll just give it a width of 100%. And then finally, we need a place for the data to be saved to. And this is going to be one of those things that we're going to go over a little bit more how we could take advantage of this. But for right now, we're only saving one value in here, but we're just going to have a hidden input where we can store our data. Now we can put like, a JSON string in here and store lots of things. For right now, we're going to select a single post and we're just going to store that post's ID inside of here. So let's just do a class here and we're going to call this post select save value. And then we're also going to give it a data-setting. And this is important because this is what's going to identify it to Elementor as something that it needs to save. So we're going to do data.name, and that's going to kind of come from the same place here as this is coming from, but this is going to be the name of the control that is going to be driving the value for this input. So it's going to make a little bit more sense here in a minute, but for now, let's just kind of get it up to the point where I need it for this example. So what that's going to do is that's going to actually just output our stuff here. Let me just kind of do like an H1 and just say, yeah, it's here. And we're going to go back to our single post and we're going to add in our control. So we're just doing this add control. This is no different than any other control that you would add, but instead of, doing like a text input or a date picker or whatever in here, we're doing the name of the control that we want to have appear. And so this is our data.name. So this is the slug, the identifier for this control, and that's what gets put right here. And then we're also going to get our label, and that's what's going to get put right here. So let's save that. And we don't have this enqueued yet. All this says is it's going to break if we try and go any further. If we try and like refresh our page and take a look, it's not going to do any of that. So what we need to do is we need to tell Elementor about our control. We need to register it with Elementor. So let's go back to our functions.php. And you can kind of see the code that I've written here that actually makes it so the widget is registered. But let's register our control. And I'm just going to copy and paste this from my the work that I did earlier and just kind of explain it here. So we have our Elementor controls registered hook. And on that, we are going to require the file that we just created, postselect.php, this guy. And we are going to take it and we are going to use it. We're going to instantiate the class that it holds inside of a new method that Elementor gives us called register control. So we instantiate the instance of the Elementor plugin, the controls manager, and the register controls method inside of controls manager. And we're going to give it a slug, and we're going to send it our class for post select. And that way it knows kind of what to do. It's going to call the get type and content template. So we're saying that this slug and this content template are in this class, which is now registered. So what that should do is that should make it so when we refresh our page over here, we should get something inside of our control. So it says, yeah, it's here. And we have a select with nothing in it. And we have our label, which is post. So that's great news. So what we have to do from here is let's kind of get rid of this, yeah, it's here thing. But since we want to get some JavaScript going and we want to be able to save the value of what's in this select into this data setting hidden input, we have to enqueue some JavaScript. And there is a method on here that you can use that will enqueue JavaScript for you. And it's just like any other kind of WordPress way of enqueuing JavaScript, but you just have the function of enqueue in here. And it's just, you give it the slug and you give it the path to some JavaScript. So we're going to put it in our custom controls, and we're going to make it post select JS. So we're going to come in here into custom controls, and we're going to do post select.js. And so we have a blank slate here. Now, Elementor uses a library to kind of manage all this stuff. And so there is, we're going to extend off of that library. So we're going to create a new variable here called post select control. And that's going to be equal to elementor.modules.controls.basedata.extend. So some of you may recognize this already. It's Backbone, I believe. So we're going to be using this kind of extend method here, and we're going to be creating a few functions inside of here that will help accelerate or kind of drive this custom control. So there's a couple methods on here that we just need to have. We need to have onReady, and that's going to be a function. We also are going to have save value. That's going to be a function as well. And then finally, we're going to have a function called onBeforeDestroy. That's going to be a function as well. And so in these three functions, we're going to create the functionality of our control. We're going to kind of go from bottom to top here. Or we're going to start at the bottom, go to the top, then back to the middle. But before we destroy our control, which means before we leave it or like we collapse it or anything like that, we just want to make sure we save the value, which is all that's going to do is that's just going to run this function, and we'll kind of deal with that here in a second. So what we have, remember, is we have a couple of elements here. We have the post select and we have the post select save value. So let's kind of get those in a spot where we can use them throughout our onReady function here. So we're just saying this.controlSelect is this.l.find the post select and this.l.post select save value. All we're doing is just grabbing those DOM elements. And then on top of that, we're going to use select2, and we're going to instantiate select2 onto our post select div or select over there. So we're going to do this.controlSelect.select2, which we just have access to because of Elementor. So thank you, Elementor, for having that in there for us. And we'll come back to this here in a second. And then what we want to do here is we want to say that whenever there is a change on our select, that we want to save the value. So on change, we want to just run a function here, and we want to do this.saveValue. And so that'll make it so every time that we make a new selection inside of our select2 thing, it will run save value. All right, so now that we've kind of got that, let's also make it so it'll save the value. So there is a function that exists inside of here already that we don't have here, but it exists inside of Elementor, is set value. So we're setting the value of this control, and we're making that whatever the value is of our control select. So whatever this ends up being, whatever this ends up being, we're going to save it to Elementor with this dot set value function. So what we need to do now is we need to actually populate the controls. We need to actually, or the select. We need to make sure that it has a list of posts that we can pick from. So let's actually just go back here real quick, and let me just make another couple posts. Just something that we can, test to, something that we can pick from, add new, and test 3, publish. All right, we'll go back to Elementor number 6, edit in here, and there's nothing in here still, obviously, so we have to actually populate it. And so what the way that I like to do this is we just are going to use the Ajax method, or the Ajax option inside of select2 to be able to pick our the post list from. So we're going to create a URL here in WordPress that's going to be where we're going to get our post list from. And we're going to take it and we're going to make sure that the data type is JSON so it knows what it is. And we're going to do a little bit more here in a second, but let's create this method here. The URL that I'm working on, and we're going to do wp admin/admin-ajax.php, and the action is going to be get posts or something like that. So we're going to set up an Ajax function here, and we want to run the get posts one here. So let's go back to our functions.php, and all I'm going to do is uncomment this and just explain it. I've gone over Ajax in the past and how to get things working with WordPress, but essentially we're just creating that get posts function, and it's just going to run this anonymous function here, and it's just going to get the latest posts, and it's going to send back them in a form that is going to be understandable to select2. And that is, it needs to be an array of options with ID and text. ID is going to be the post ID, and that is what's going to be saved. ID is the value that you want to save, and text is going to be the human readable portion that they're going to look through. It's going to make sense here more in a second, but we want this response to be in this particular format. All right, so we are going to get back those results. However, select2 needs them to be in slightly more of a specific format. We could have done this formatting over here, but I do want to show you kind of what you can do if you're getting it from like a third party or something like that, and you need to manipulate the results to fit the format that select2 wants. So we're going to do format results is a method on here, and it's a function, and it's going to bring in, the results that you got, the results from our Ajax method. And it wants it to be in an object with the key of results, and everything is inside of results. And so we're just going to put our data inside of there. And so let's take a look at how this pans out here. Let's edit with Elementor again. And inside of here, oh, we don't have anything. Let me make sure that, oh, I know what it is. I forgot this one line down here. So what we have to do is, once we've actually created this variable here, post select control, we have to add it to elementor.add control view. And that's the thing. Even though that it's in queued, you need to use Elementor's kind of API to inject it in there. So we're giving it that slug again, WPC post select, and post select control. We're feeding that variable into there as well. All right, so let's refresh this, and hopefully we should have that inside of there now. Yep. So now we have our nice little control here. And we can select post. So let's pick test 3 and save. And we're going to notice that we don't have any of this set up here. So all it's doing is just yo. So let's go back and check to see our post select or single post render. So we're just going to get rid of yo. And we're going to uncomment this. And all this is doing is getting the settings like you normally would in Elementor. It's going to check to make sure that we have a post control in there, and it's going to grab the post and just output the post title. So let's refresh our page, and it is now have test 3. And if we were to do test 2 or something like that and hit update, now we have test 2 as well. And so that is how you create a custom control. So this is something that we're going to expand on in other videos. I want to get a little bit more wacky with kind of what we do here, because essentially you can kind of already do this with some of the features that are in there. Like you have a select to control in Elementor already, But now you can kind of get crazy with this even. Like if you wanted to, you could take, oh, I don't know, you could take this right here and you can add like an image in here. Like you can have another one, image, and then you could have the post image inside of here. And every time that you change the post on here, you can display the featured image of the post that you just selected over here inside of like the Elementor control view. It's literally just a place that you can dump HTML in. So you can kind of go wild inside of here, and it's highly customizable. So you can do all sorts of things in here. And the reason why I'm going to be doing these videos is because at work we use Elementor for a large number of our sites, and we create custom controls all over the place and things that just Elementor doesn't give you out of the box. So I might kind of deep dive into some of the like more complicated examples of how you can make an Elementor control. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you got this far, think about subscribing. I do WordPress tutorials on most Wednesdays. So if you're looking to expand your WordPress and other topics, other web development topics, just looking to expand your learning, I hope this is a great place for that. I certainly think so. Also, if you're interested in kind of doing some more advanced topics, I have those videos on my Patreon. There's a link in the description there. Thank you to my patrons who have been supporting me, where I'm doing another video on JS testing, or using end-to-end testing with JS using Cypress. So you can kind of test your WordPress site's appearance and the DOM to make sure it looks good before you ship it out. So just some automated tests there that video is going to be coming here in the next week or so. So keep an eye out for that. But I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you in the next one.